Welcome back to the Beer Junkies. Today we are brewing an English Porter. The English Porter is a dark brown, medium strength English ale. It is known for its rich, malty, chocolatey, and caramel flavors. It doesn't have quite as intense of a bitterness or a roast as the robust American Porter does. It is very pleasant, very drinkable beer. We're going to walk you through the ingredients we use, the malts, the hops, the yeast, the water profile. I'm also going to walk you through our process, the mashing, mash out, the sparge, the boil, the whirlpool, knockout, fermentation, and at the very end, we're going to walk you through our taste test. So let's get started. The water profile for our porter is 50 parts per million of calcium, 33 parts per million of sodium, 35 parts per million of sulfate, and 45 parts per million of chloride. To do that, I'm adding calcium chloride, gypsum, Epsom salt, baking soda, and pickling lime. I'm going to add that baking soda and pickling lime to boost that pH because the roasted malts we add in the mash will drop it into a harsh level to the low fives, high fours. That'll lead to an unpleasant beer. So I would recommend using a water calculator such as Brew and Water or Beersmiths to figure out how much of the bicarbonates you need to add to keep that pH in the 5.3, 5.4 level. I will add these salts to the mash water. I will not add the baking soda and pickling lime to the sparge water. That won't be needed, but I will add calcium chloride, gypsum, and Epsom salt to get a consistent profile throughout. Right now, I've got the hot liquor tank filling up and heating up, but while that's getting ready, let's go over the grains we're going to be using. The grain bill for our porter is a little bit more complex than I normally do, but it is worth it. I start with about 70 to 75% of Maris Otter as our base. That will build up that nice rich maltiness. To that, I add around 8 to 10% of a brown malt. This will add a nice rich coffee flavor. I will add around 5% of a dark crystal malt, around 85 Levabond. This will build up that sweetness and add some caramel and toffee notes. To that, I add around 5% of a pale chocolate malt. This is a nice color adjustment and will add nice chocolate and coffee flavors. I also add 2 to 3% of a black patent malt. This will be another color adjustment and add a little bit of a dry roasty flavor. And then finally, I add around 5% of flaked barley. This will build up that richness and creaminess by adding in some additional unfermentable sugars. Right now, the mash tun is ready, so let's mash all of that in. This is our mashing setup. We are pulling the wort from the bottom of the mash tun through the false bottom, pushing it through our wort pump, through the Herms coil, which is keeping the temperature where we'd like it to, and we are consistently recirculating to set up our grain bed filter. I mashed this porter at 152 degrees Fahrenheit for about 60 minutes. With the large amounts of crystal malt, the flaked barley, and the English ale yeast that I'm going to touch on later, we're going to have plenty of body in this beer, so I don't need to alter the mashing profile to a higher temperature to get more of the unfermentable sugars in this step. So 152 degrees Fahrenheit will give us a nice mix of alpha and beta amylase to get a nice fermentable sugar profile. Right now I've got about 15 minutes left in the mash, but I'll be back when it's time to mash out. Our 60 minutes is up, so now we are mashing out. With the same setup as before, we are pulling the wort from the bottom of the mash tun, pushing it through our pump, through the Herms coil, but now we are heating up the hot liquor tank to about 177 degrees, which will heat up this mash tun to about 168 degrees over the course of 15 minutes. Once we get to 168 degrees, we will begin to sparge. We just got to 168 degrees Fahrenheit, so now we are sparging. We are pulling the wort from the bottom of the mash tun, pushing it through our wort pump, which is now directed towards the boil kettle, which is heating up as it fills up. At the same time, we are pulling off our sparge water from the hot liquor tank, pushing it through our water pump, and rinsing the residual sugars that are left in the grains. We just got to a boil, so we will boil this wort for 90 minutes. While this boils, let's go over the hops that we're going to be using. All right, these are the hops that we use. I use Fuggle as my bittering addition, and I will add 15 to 17 IBUs worth at the 60-minute mark. For the East Kent Goldings, I will add 7 to 9 IBUs at the 20-minute mark, and then 3 to 5 IBUs worth at the 5-minute mark. These two hops together will give you a nice earthy, spicy flavor that will balance nicely with that rich malt flavor. We just finished our boil, so now we are whirlpooling, pulling wort from the bottom of the boil kettle, pushing it through our tangential input to create a vortex inside of the boil kettle. We will do this for 10 minutes, and then we will turn that pump off and let it wind down for 10 minutes. We just finished a whirlpool, so now we are knocking out, pulling wort from the bottom of the boil kettle, pushing it through our pump, through the heat exchanger. We're going through way below 60, so I need to speed that up a little bit. We've got our oxygen being injected, but you can't tell because of how dark that wort is. We're going all the way down here, seeing bubbles as we push out that excess air. For our porter, we use the English ale yeast from White Labs. It has a little bit lower attenuation than a lot of the strains that we use, so it builds up that body with a little bit of residual sweetness. It also produces a little bit more esters than some of the other strains that we use, which adds a nice complexity to the final beer. We pitch the yeast at 64 degrees Fahrenheit, and we'll let this free rise up to 67 degrees for fermentation. We'll let it stay there until it's about 4 specific gravity points away from terminal gravity, at which point we will let it free rise up to 72 degrees for that diacetyl rest. After 24 hours at 72 degrees, we will cold crash it to 33 degrees and hold it there for at least 24 hours. Then we will transfer it to our bright tank, carbonate it to about 2.4, 2.5 volumes, keg it, and then enjoy. All right, this is what we have. It is very, very dark. It's opaque. It has a nice off-white head. For the smell, there's a very rich maltiness. I get some of that coffee and chocolate flavor coming through. Not much of the caramel on the aroma. Oh, but it smells so pleasant. For the taste is similar to the aroma. I get that chocolate and coffee with a little bit of caramel in there. Very rich malty. It's got a nice body with a touch of dryness on the end. There's a balancing bitterness, but it's not bitter. And it's not harsh either from all those roasted grains. That water profile did help make this pleasant. We are over the age of 21. We do not condone underage drinking. Please drink responsibly. Oh, cheers. If you would like to see more brewing content like this, make sure you click that subscribe button right below. And let me know what you'd like to see next in the comments. Cheers.